Hey guys, I was just with Glenn Phipps, who's an exercise physiologist that I get to work on my dodgy bits, which is my shoulder at the minute. But we were having a chat while he was doing some treatment on rucking and sort of stretches that you could do both pre and post ruck, just to keep everything limber. And like, I know after a big heavy ruck, I get really tight through my glutes and the top of my hammies and stuff. So I asked him some questions and he come up with some crackers. So I thought I'd grab it on camera so everybody could share in his wealth of knowledge.
So we'll look at some ideas for you specifically, but just generally overall, when we're out going for a ruck, we do want to warm our joints up, warm things up. In terms of stretching, we want to make sure our stretching is targeted to something. So I don't advocate for general stretching. We want our stretching techniques before our activity to be targeted towards your own issues, but also we want to use some isometric loading to activate muscles. So there's big debates around whether you should stretch or not before activity. You should. Everyone talks mobility pre-activity, but I actually think we should do what we call mobility exercise, which is just dynamic stretching afterwards because it helps our recovery.
Okay.
So let's look at some exercises.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so first one, we're going to look at an exercise you've probably seen before, a cat-cow. We really want to get some movement through the spine here. So Adam, I'm sure, knows this exercise. So do you want to show us what a cat-cow would look like?
Is that this one?
No.
That's a bird dog.
Yeah, it is a bird dog. Cat-cow's this one.
Cat-cow's like, yes, yeah. And how long do you hold in cat and then cow?
So we're just going between them.
Okay.
All right, so we can see here, come back into, I don't know which one's a cat or cow to be honest.
I think here, cat's up.
So we can see Adam does have some rib cage movement. We can see with my hand here, it's coming through, it's muscular, he's squeezing his shoulders together. So we're not actually seeing a huge amount of tilting in the rib cage. And that's probably something we want before we pop the ruck on our back. We want to be sure we have command over our rib cage position. So if this is you, there's a few things you could start to do to try and improve this position, and that might be a lat stretch. So let's have a look at that. All right, so.
Do you want full extension?
Yeah. So what we're going to do here, we'll have the same side foot forward, and step back across to the left here, where you were in that left foot.
Yeah.
Because what we want to do is we want to pull the hip away from the armpit. And so we want to open up this whole area. Sometimes we see lack of movement in the upper body because we're really tight through our lats, and we also want to remember that our lats insert in all these different spots, including our arms. So it's a good muscle to probably, for most people, to probably get into a little bit before they're going to put something on their back, just in terms of ensuring we've got good spinal movement. You could do this and then come back into the cat and cow. If you don't have good command over your rib cage position, you could also do things like have a broomstick in your elbows and try and get this rib cage position moving. It doesn't have to be on the ground, but we probably do want to make sure we can find some extension through our chest first.
And this one, I guess you could just grab a fence post or...
You could be doing it out on a walk.
Yeah.
So some of these you could do while you're out and about. You might find you're starting to get a little bit stiff or sore, especially if the ruck's a new thing for you. By all means, you could stop and do these things just to ensure that we're not muscles aren't staying in shortened positions for a long period of time. All right, so next we're going to get some movement through the pelvis, and we're going to free up some of the muscles that often see people stay in either torsion in their pelvis or a certain position. So get Adam to come down onto one knee in like a lunge position. And what we want to do here, and this is a bit weird if you haven't done it before, we're looking to get tilting back and forth of the pelvis. Bit of a sexy move.
There's nothing sexy about me doing it.
And so what's going to be happening here, all the muscles that insert into the pelvis.
You feel that up through here, eh?
Yeah, so you might feel it in your TFL. If you've had any kind of knee ITB issues, you'll definitely feel that here. And with your position of your pelvis, saying that, you can actually decide you will load that more. Just stay on that side for a sec. And then if you pop the hip out to the right a little bit, then you'll load that TFL even more through this
Makes it hard to move, right?
And so with that, as Adam said, it makes it hard to move. That's when we're going to go, all right, let's free that up a bit. So to free it up, have the top of your back foot on the ground, come into that tilted position. And what we're going to do is lean back a little bit, drop the left shoulder. and you're gonna push the top of the back foot as hard as you can into the ground. So this is also a good activation for your quad. So we can use our stretching techniques as isometric loading to get our brain tuned into firing up some of these muscles, especially if you're doing a carry with your ruck up some stairs or up a hill. It's nice to get some of these muscles fired up a little bit first.
And I guess with your pelvis, like if you're carrying heavy, like there's a lot of weight that's sort of pushed down towards your hips, right?
And you want to make sure your hips are moving. Which one's your bad shoulder?
This one.
Yeah.
The one
Remember when we looked
high.
at it and you had your left shoulder was dropped and your right hip was pointed out?
Yeah.
That's why you're so tight in that TFL, because it's
Yeah,
always
right.
loaded. All right, so this next one is a glute activation. We're going to get the muscles around our butt fired up. Again, getting out before we put the ruck on, we want things firing up well. So I like this one. If you come over here, Adam, we're going to lean onto, we're going to use these, hold on to these, and we're going to lean back off them.
1 foot back? Or
Yeah. So let's have the right foot on the ground. And, okay. I'll leave that. Okay, so you're going to lift this one off the ground.
This one here?
Yep. And you're going to lean back, so you're hanging on, and you're going to point your right hip towards your left foot.
Ooh.
And we're going to fire up that left glute.
Jesus.
If we now also push the left big toe into the ground as hard as you can, we're establishing that neural connection between the big toe and the glute. So this is another good thing. If you say, oh, my glutes don't fire or whatever, definitely do this before you pop the ruck on your back and head out for a ruck.
Whoa, this is...
All right, so things to think about when you are out and about with the ruck on your back. Trying to maintain your arm swing as best as possible. Some people you'll find would tend to think too much about the weight on their back and end up in this sort of position and stop swinging their arms. It's really important in terms of force distribution through our body to make sure that we're still getting our ribcage moving, swinging our arms, and trying to keep our gait as normal as possible. So not shortening up your gait too much, even though that may happen naturally, and trying to maintain good stride length. Look at feet, not crossing over each other, these sorts of things. Just nice, open, strong gait. Chest up is really important as well. We want to get our calves kind of moving a little bit before the ruck, because we certainly will get more load, obviously, into our lower limbs once we've got a ruck on our back. I like a funny walk for this. So what we're looking at is heel down, push off the toes. Heel down, push off the toes.
How's the balance? And keeping like a similar stride length to what you would walk?
It doesn't really matter too much for this. It's just about getting everything fired up. You can also put a few different things in this. So as we're coming up, you might also look to rotate the knee towards the little toe, and you'll feel it fires up muscles at the back of your leg a little bit differently. But this is also a good way to, make sure you're driving off your big toe in the toe off phase of your gait as well, which is important, especially as you're putting load on your back. All right, so you've had a ruck session, you've come home, you want to kind of minimize some of that ongoing soreness or tightness around your feet, but this is also a great technique just to free up this whole kind of line all the way along the back of your leg. So we're just going to get a ball into the foot. Now you've probably done a general kind of, it can be any sort of ball really. And you've probably done this before, just rolling it along, but we also want to move the joints in our feet. The way we're going to do that is you're going to roll, I'm going to get the ball under my toes. I'm trying to get my toes to move kind of like fingers on the piano. We're going to come into this joint here. So we're trying to move different joints like our navicular. We're going to get into the back of that plantar fascia in the front of the heel. We might also get in our fourth and fifth mets, knowing that they attach differently on our foot. We're just trying to get all joints to move. It's a really good way to free up your joints and just get into all this tissue post-ruck.
Could you do that sitting down, or you need the pressure?
You could do it sitting down, and some people might have to do it sitting down because it might be a bit too much for them, and also depending on how hard your balls are. Okay, so stretching, dynamic stretching, active stretching, all these things. The things that we do at the front of our ruck session, we can certainly do at the back as well. But doing some more movement-based things is really good for our recovery. Stretching-wise, post-ruck. So traditionally we've gone dynamic before activity, stretching post-activity. I think we should stretch pre-activity if we have an issue. If we want to free up some areas, it's really important. And stretching post-activity isn't really going to help our recovery. As a matter of fact, if you've got muscle damage, which you will as a result of exercise, it'll make it worse. So we want to do some more dynamic stuff post-activity. So a good one is getting into our hips again. So maybe coming into like a lunge position, we want to lean back, dropping the knee. And what you should feel through leaning back, we're tucking the hip under and we're getting all of this to open up. So what you're trying to do is stop this knee coming forward, all the weight's coming into the back leg. So 7, 8 reps each side of that is a really good way to get some blood flow back into your legs and also open up those areas that you may have been getting tired and coming up a hill like this and opening your hips back up. We're just going to get some movement into our glutes as well. So coming into this position where I've got my left knee in front of my hip, I'm going to keep my chest up here and I'm going to move up and down like this. Now we want to feel that glute load as we come down. So for me, I can comfortably get to here, but I want to feel it earlier. And the way I feel this earlier is I let my pelvis tip, chest up, and I can already feel it here. So you might even just need to go to here, and we're just trying to get all the glute muscles to kind of respond. They're wanting to contract back, and we're just getting moving back and forth. By all means, you could hold a stretch here. So you could come into a stretch, lift the chest. And if you do have glute issues, this might be another time to do an isometric, which we could do by pushing our knee and our foot hard into the ground. If you also want to fire those lats up again, which we looked at the start, we could reach the hand across and come in and out like this. And this is a really good one too, to get into that relationship between our glute and our lat, which is part of our stability when we're walking. So it's nice to get all this tissue to move as well. And just one more to get into our spine. So this is also a good one before going out on the ruck. I'm going to have my hand back, turning, looking over my shoulder, coming forward. Turning, looking over my shoulder, coming forward. And what's important is my hand is coming back behind me. I'm going lower back, rib cage, head, here. So if you want to hurt your back, this is a really good place to hurt it. Rounding your back and twisting is one of the best ways to hurt your back. So don't do that. Have your hand here, lift the chest, make sure your spine is straight. My lower back, chest, head, and come forward.
So I've seen that stretch before, but not the forward bit. What's the?
I'm just getting movement through my spine.
Yeah,
it's a nice one just to, after you've done something, rather than just go and sit back down, just get a whole heap of movement first. Okay, so once you pop the ruck on your back, so good things that these rucks I feel they do help my posture when I put them on my back. But some people, once you're out rucking, you might be reactive to that and feel like you're going to start coming forward a little bit in response to the load. So one thing that's really important is keeping that chest up when you're out and about. And as we did our drill on ensuring ribcage movement. And part of that is also just getting your head into being able to command this position. So a lot of people can't do this. So being able to get your head around keeping good ribcage position without using your back. So one thing we don't want to do is be holding our chest up and compressing through our lower back here. We want our hips to stay under our body, but our chest up. Next thing to think about is making sure that you have a good arm swing.
I don't swing my arms when I walk.
And a lot of people, especially once you've had a shoulder issue, as Adam does, tend to swing from their elbows across their body. So, and even really sometimes part of getting over a shoulder issue is trying to make sure things are still moving, because we tend to walk more than we do our exercises. So, making sure that your rib cage is moving when you walk. And it's probably the only thing that you can override in your gait pattern is ensuring good arm swing. And that means things like your thumb is pointed forward in front of you, you're not coming across your body. And these are all things that you would address in your pre-ruck stretching. So things like if your arm is coming across here, maybe you might open up your pec a little bit, your lats and things like that. That's how pre-activity stretching can help. So chest up, rib cage moving side to side, arms swinging in front of you.
But you want to kind of have that swagger side to side versus just having your elbows.
Absolutely, and it will feel like a swagger if you're not used to walking like that.
You feel like a wanker.
it looks so much less stupid than what it feels. Like think of it as a confident walk.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, trying to keep everything as normal gait as possible, you know.
And by gait, you mean just your stride length?
Yeah, stride length, you know, trying to minimize feet crossing your body. And you know, like it's not necessarily time to try and correct gait patterns, but trying to keep them as normal for you as possible.
Because the heavier you go, the natural inclination is to shorten your gait, shorten your step.
Absolutely.
Because it is hard to overstep.
Yeah.
When you've got weight on your back.
And it depends on a lot of things too, like hip and knee health and how everything's working together.
Yep.
But yeah, trying to you definitely will shorten up your stride, and that isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yep.
But you certainly don't want to come into a shuffle.
And with the setup of the ruck, like how important do you think it is to have all your straps adjusted evenly and your weight in the backs?
Yeah, you don't want to be creating torsion.
Yeah, so just try to keep everything as even with all your straps. Like you'll see my waist straps are very even, my shoulder straps are very even. And even when I load this pack up, I make sure that I load it in a central and I just dump all the weight on one side.
And you'll know anyway when you put it on, right? Same as shoes, you know what a good pair of shoes is when you put them on your feet. You'll know if the pack is sitting well when you put it on your back and you walk around a little bit. But you know, sometimes what feels good might also be exacerbating something. So we know that you have a shoulder drop and your hip comes out. So you might feel more comfortable with the pack over here, but it's going to start to pull you down a little bit more. So maybe it's a good thing to even, if you're serious about it and going out for a long walk, maybe just videoing yourself walking to and fro,
just so you can see
the camera, so you can see if the pack is pulling you into any other positions.
And in regards to, like, do you have any preference on how high the pack should sit, or is that more of a comfort thing, do you think?
Well, for me, I think I like the ruck vest because it sits higher.
Yeah.
And it tends to, because I think I've got good movement in my rib cage, it tends to just sit me like that.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if it's lower, I think you can be inclined to do this.
Yeah, like it does feel like it's pulling your shoulders back, which is nice, but if it's not, if you are getting
if
that
it's too
arch,
low, you might start to arch your back. Yeah. But I guess that's where these straps come into play.
Yeah,
as well.
And I find on a longer, heavier ruck, I'm forever unclipping my shoulder strap when I get pain between my shoulder blades a little bit, which if I've been on my computer or doing this, I tend to really notice it.
That's also the thing to think about too, right? It's head position. So making sure your head's not here, but if you can have your chest up, your head's gonna come back.
Yeah, naturally.
So even checking on things like, oh, where's my chin relative to my neck and things like that. So, and as I said, there'll be an inclination to put load on your back and be reactive and be here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
I tend to do that up hills in particular.
Yeah.
I notice myself lean forward on the hills, but no, that's good. Good things to keep note of. And the idea of rucking is to feel better, not to get injured.